I want to be back on that hospital bed. I felt so far away from you. I felt, I just want to be close to you again.
What's going on, everybody? It's Jay Lee with Move, and today I'm here with my good old friend Jeremiah, and we have a special guest here today in the house. We have Marcus here, really good friend of ours. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Give him a round of applause.
He's a boy.
Yeah, he's the guy,
He's the guy.
The big dog.
Yeah.
One of the boys.
One
Got
of the
that
boys.
dog in him.
Yeah. Put him away. Put him away. I'm scared.
Put a leash on that thing.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
And I'm glad. I'm actually glad that you're here, man. I'm really excited. This is really anticipated. Like, man,
Yeah.
I'm like, please, can you hurry up and get on here?
We gotta do it.
I'm like, can we do it, please? Let's change history.
Right.
Let's change life. So basically, we're just kind of gonna start off, man. Like, what about you, man?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you, dog?
Yeah, who am I? Well, I guess before that, thanks for having me on. I'm glad that you guys are creating this space, doing this thing. You're doing the thing. You're doing the thing.
Doing the one thing.
And so it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to, I guess, share a little bit about my story, who I am. I know I've known you guys for less than a year.
Yeah.
It felt like so much
But it feels like
Yeah.
we go back.
Yeah.
We go
I've
back.
known
back
you my
in time.
entire life, bro.
I know this guy.
And so, yeah. So I'm just grateful to be here. So thanks guys for creating this space, and excited to see where it goes and all the conversations that come from it. This is, am I the second guest that's a part of it? Third guest?
Technically second. I mean, he's technically a guest too.
I'm a guest.
He's
I'm
a
part of
guest,
it.
but
I'll be reoccurring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reoccurring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, man, grateful. So, I guess a little bit about myself. That was the question. Who am I? Who is Marcus? Where do we start? With who's Marcus?
What do you do?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do I do? So, I do quite a bit. Creative all around. A lot of people know me because I typically lead worship. But when I'm not leading worship and traveling doing that, I do graphic design. Went to school for that. Love building brands. Love taking ideas, something that's like imaginary, and making it come into reality. So love all things creative, photo, video, design. I mean, you name it. All of the visual elements of design. Love being behind it and using it to tell a story. So that's a little bit about what I do. A little bit about who I am. Born and raised Orlando, Florida. There's far and few of us now these days. But we're still here. Got a lot of family. I'm Costa Rican and Dominican. And so shout out to all the Dominicans and the Costa Ricans.
My guys.
Yeah.
I'm a proud Iowan, so nothing cool about me.
I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, basically in the middle of nowhere with cow poop.
Cow poop and corn.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, man, Marcus, like, what are you? You're like ethnically ambiguous. And I'm like, thank you.
I'm like,
I think that's a compliment.
I know, right? I'm like, I don't even know what them words mean.
That's a big word. I like it.
So I guess that's a little bit about who I am. Yeah.
How was life? So basically, how was life? You know, I don't know if you were saved your entire life or what was your whole story about that? What?
Yeah, born and raised in the church. And my mom had me young. So she had me at 16. And my grandmother always part of the church. I guess a little bit about that. My mom was, finishing kind of her schooling and things like that. And she, she's young. My grandmother was a big part of my upbringing.
Right.
And so she would always bring me to church. She'd always put me in the kids choir. And so before I knew it, I was just like there singing solos.
So you've been singing like most of your life.
Yeah, I've been singing most of my life. So, even when my mom had me, I mean, some of the earliest memories I can recall was just jumping on the bed and singing like Lauryn Hill and like
Having
Aretha Franklin,
little concerts and worship sessions.
man.
Marvin Gaye, and then eventually kind of going into kind of like the what the Spanish community would call corritos.
That
And
sounds
so
familiar.
yeah, just kind of like learning some of those things in the kids choir, and then kind of getting into that space of worship or songs. And so, yeah, my grandmother would have these cassette tapes that she would practice to. And so she'd put it in. So I still know what a cassette tape is.
Not that young.
I'm not, maybe I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
here.
Doxing himself. He doesn't even know it.
But there was these cassette tapes she would put in, and I'd listen along and I'd harmonize with her as she would practice on the way to church. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I started singing. That was my foundation, I guess you can say.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So have you so I was only saved for a year, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what it's like to be born in a church or really raised in that aspect. I've been in churches here and there, I'll go with my great grandma or something, but what are some difficulties that you may have faced even as being saved from a very young age?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the church, it was just something that you kind of did. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just Wednesday nights you're there. I mean, I was there almost every week.
Yeah.
Every day of the week. So Wednesdays, I remember, long. Then Saturdays, it was just from waking up at 8 or 9 in the morning.
Just locked in.
And, getting ready to the whole thing. And then having like a big potluck, eating some food. And there's this notorious thing called Haystack. And that thing changed my life till this day. Love it. Anyways, but there was this thing called Pathfinders, and it was kind of like a glorified Boy Scouts. Yeah. So you would do that after church, and then all the way up until Saturday night, they would open up the gym, and it was like this open gym. Everyone's playing basketball, football, dominoes is happening over there. My grandmother, she's cooking empanadas in the corner. It was just a whole thing. And so it was just a part of who I was. And I guess I had gotten baptized pretty early, but I never realized the depths of what that meant. And so some of the challenges, I guess you can say, that's a really good question. What would be some of the challenges?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question. I get asked that, I'd be like,
well, I look back, actually, I think my worldview was very limited back then. And so I would look to my friends, I'd look to my cousins, and I would see what they're doing, and I quickly became judgmental. And so that happened pretty early on. And so I remember when the iPod Shuffle came back around, well, not came back around, when it first came out, the iPod Shuffle was there, and I was only allowed to have Christian music on it. And my cousin, he had, I think the song was a Chris Brown song, and he showed me it, and I was like, oh my gosh,
you sinner.
Yeah. But then also let me hear that.
I love it, but I won't let you know that.
Right. And he had, all these kind of, I think he put me onto Linkin Park. That's how I kind of got into Linkin Park, into a lot of, this other music, this worldly music. And so I remember, telling my parents Elijah has bad music on his thing, and it has the E thing on it. You
got to go get this kid
for explicit.
Grab him.
And so I think that's probably some of the challenges, I guess you can say, is just it was a very kind of limiting worldview, and we were the righteous, and then everybody else was just wrong, and so that really informed my upbringing for a lot of years, and. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Did you find it at all, when you had first discovered that, there was, your friend had explicit music on his phone, secular music, you're used to listening to just Christian music most of your childhood. And did you find it at all? I mean, me being a fellow musician, the biggest thing I guess wrestle with is that I love Christian music. I love the message, and I love its entire purpose. But the instruments and the musicality of a lot of secular music is just so intriguing to me, being a musician. And I'm like, I love how this song sounds instrumentally. And then you listen to the lyrics and you read what it's about and you're like, bro, I can never listen to this again. I'm like, what am I listening to?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did you find that at all like frustrating or challenging or like a little unfair?
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Some of the music. I mean, it was great. It was like weirdly good. I'm like, why am I bopping my head to this? Like,
Never heard
is,
this before.
Right,
It's a
like
jam.
it was only kind of this style of music that I was allowed to listen to, and then you start listening to the lyrics, and it's like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, did he just say that?
That's
like,
not okie dokie.
and so it was like this weird kind of like tension, this dichotomy within me. Like, I like it, but then also like I can't like it. Like,
not
this is
right.
bad.
Yeah.
And then other songs that weren't necessarily bad, they were talking about love. But am I allowed to like this? You know, it doesn't say God explicitly. It doesn't say Jesus. It doesn't say anything about that. So can I listen to this? So.
And like you say, like a lot of these songs, like they're not necessarily negative. Like a lot of the songs are talking about love. Well, then even as you grow like spiritually and you go into, okay, well, what even is love? And you start reading scripture about that, and you see all these things that talk about love, and it's so it's represented with good intent. And it's like, yeah, love is a beautiful thing, but there's such a misrepresentation of what they're describing to be love. And then you even have to wrestle with that. And you're like, it's positive and it has good intent, but it's wrong. Like, it's just not accurate. Like, this is not what love is.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. At least I struggle with that personally, you know?
Right. It was like, speaking of that, there was this one song I remember. It was Yo, Excuse Me, Miss.
Oh, I know
by
that song.
Chris Brown.
I know that song. Yeah.
And that was,
Is that the one he showed you?
That
on his
was the
iPod?
one.
Oh man,
it
that's
was a jam.
oh.
And I remember seeing the music video too. And so I'm like, they're dancing. And I'm like, can you dance like that? Like, is that even allowed?
Is that allowed?
And I remember just kind of like, this is so cool. Like, it was very innocent, very innocent. It's some guy, he sees this girl and is like, man, like,
Excuse me, miss.
excuse me, miss. I saw you from across the room, and I gotta admit, you got my attention.
The song's good.
Super good song,
It's a super
right?
good song.
But it's just this adolescence, and you know, like just those nerves. You know, he's describing this emotion that he's feeling when he sees this girl that she might be it for him, and so you know, for me at that time, it was just like, I don't even know what to do with this, but I think as I got older, like, oh, I kind of understand it.
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you talk to the girl? Do you dance it out like in the music video? He's like doing all these
go up to her,
dance
just start
moves.
doing the robot.
Is this
dancing
an
the time.
instructional music video? It's like, all right, guys, I figured it out.
I have the formula.
Watch and learn.
Let me moonwalk. You know, like
Go over there and
That's how
start
you
doing the
get 'em.
robot.
that's what you get. Maybe it's the singing. Maybe it's the singing that gets her. You know,
Yeah.
and so that's what it was.
I also agree with the whole like music aspect of it, is because for a very long time I would listen to very secular music, like not the greatest music. I mean, because I was raised in more of like the not so good era, like, you know, hood around the not so nice crowd of people.
Yeah, sure.
So like I grew up into that type of music. So very, very
It's just
vivid-
what you would listen to.
yeah,
you know?
very, very colorful word choices, and you know, I guess I like saying colorful. I
Yeah.
guess
It was pretty colorful.
it was pretty colorful, but not in the color you're thinking. And you know, like I got older, and you know, I had playlists. I have so many playlists, man, and I had this entire playlist. It's called Brain Food.
Okay.
Well, it's more like brain rot, but like, you know, like I would listen to that music, man. And it's just like every song was explicit. There was not one song that was not explicit. And it's like the message was good, like, you know, I'm gonna get out here and get money, and the next thing you know, it's like drugs and, you know, all that other stuff. I'm just like, I don't want to listen to this no more.
This ain't helping me.
You know, and after I got saved and really started paying attention to my salvation, and like starting to pay attention, like, all right, well, I shouldn't be listening to this stuff. It's like I listen to it and I'm just like, I don't really enjoy listening to this anymore, man. It's like it's not. I don't get there and be like, yeah, he's spitting.
Yeah, it's like you get that bad taste in your mouth. Like, I'm really sitting here rocking out to some really immoral stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you killing your brother, you going out sleeping with a bunch of women, doing drugs, literally ruining your life. And people are like, yeah, this is great.
And,
I'm like,
the problem with that music too is it inspires the wrong idea. Like people will be like, man, this is really cool. This music makes me feel awesome, makes me feel tough. And then they get the wrong idea and they try to implement these same things into their life.
Right.
And then what happened? You go to jail, you end up getting killed. You know, like that type of music is dangerous, man. It's really dangerous. And just for me listening to that for a very long time is like, I was the same exact kid. I was trying to be like, man, whatever. I'm sagging my pants. I'm like, cool. I'm cool. I'm a gangster. No, I'm not. I'm a lovebird.
I want to go home.
I'm a sweetheart. I want my mommy.
I want cookies and milk.
Yeah. You know, but that music is really inspiring in the bad way. There's music that's really inspiring in a positive way, and there's music that's inspiring in a negative way. And a lot of people don't really take that in that way. They just like, man, this music's cool.
Right.
When music's so powerful, bro.
It's
like
so powerful.
I mean, Lucifer was the angel of music. And I think that's a huge real. I'm fully convinced Hollywood is run by the devil.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
No, 100%.
And you see, like, I mean, what's their biggest marketing thing? Music. Music moves people. Whether you, like we're just talking about, whether you agree with the lyrics or not, there's something about, like, even just finding appeal in the instruments. It draws you in. You know, that's not anything new. That's been the thing since the dawn of time, you know? Like it's so powerful. And you're right, it is dangerous. It's planting seeds and it's feeding your soul.
It can be used in the wrong way.
Absolutely. You know, and ultimately it is God's, and that's why we use it for his glory and his worship. But you know, we can use it for other things. You know?
No, absolutely.
Music definitely informs you, and it definitely informed me at a young age. It's always had a very deep impression on me. And so, yeah, I guess kind of journeying through my childhood was just a lot of music. My mom would have, like I said, those old records, and then I'd also have the church music at the same time too. So I'm hearing kind of both of these things. And at the time, the church music was very like old school.
Oh yeah.
So it was hard.
Like hymns. And
Yeah. So I mean, you just sang it, but it was really hard for me to like enjoy it the way that I enjoyed some of the other music that
it's
I
like
was
so
listening
ritualistic
to.
almost.
Yeah. Just very traditional. That's just the best way to say it. Just very traditional. But then, you know, we'd have all the family over for a pool party, and they're playing the jams. And there's some like home videos of me just walking around with my like chain and my like little gold necklace at the time, and some diapers, just jamming.
Yo,
just bopping.
Little Marcus just getting it in, bro.
Just bopping. But yeah, music definitely informed me. And it informs a lot of people. And so, yeah, I think, you know, you pointed out a really great point. A lot of people don't realize that Lucifer was the worship leader of heaven. So he knows just how powerful not only music is, but he knows how powerful worship is too. And so, I have a bunch of stories on music and you know, even kind of diving into more of like, so many genres of music I was listening to growing up. I started out electric guitar and just kind of brief story, you know, kind of went down the route of, you know, the Nirvana and kind of like all these artists, and then to some, you know, more hardcore stuff. And then I even had like a post-hardcore group at one time and was doing Screamo. I mean, a long way from Marvin Gaye, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a very long
How
way.
we go from Marvin Gaye to now I'm screaming my lungs
Suicide
out.
Silence.
Yeah.
All these underground
Yeah,
hardcore bands.
Just all of it. And so it was quite the journey. And I don't know, maybe it was my teenage angst that, you know, really wanted something more like just rebellious and something
I
more.
feel like everybody goes through
Yeah.
that.
Everybody has that phase.
Yeah.
It's just how do you go through it?
And, you know, even to, you know, I remember this one Slipknot song, and that song had like, I think a lot of young people say it probably, they had a chokehold on me, whatever, but like quite literally, like it was spiritual. It was a spiritual chokehold. And I remember one time, just being so obsessed with the song that I felt like I was being possessed. And that moment I was like, I have to stop. Like I can't listen to this song anymore. And I was like, wow, like music is powerful.
It's very powerful.
It
It's
is
influence.
powerful.
It's an influence.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
and even like another thing about like how Lucifer was the worship leader. The whole reason he was removed from heaven is because he wanted the worship. He was like, no, give this worship to me. I want to be God. And you know, being in the worship industry in the music team for a good part of both of our lives, how many worship leaders are in that exact same position and they don't even realize it, man. They're put on the pedestal in front of thousands of people every week. We don't know what's like. We don't know what's in their hearts. We don't know. Are they doing this for their glory?
Yeah.
Like, is that their intent? Yeah, they're singing worship songs, but where's their heart at? You know. And you said it so much. If worship is not genuine from the heart to God, then it's not worship.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to be for Him, not for yourself. You need to be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, music's pretty hard influence. So just really, I guess about me, really. Of course, like I said before, it's like I've only been saved a year, and a lot of things has been new to me. So especially like scripture and all these other things, like reading the Bible. Like actually, just even this morning, I had like a kind of like a roadblock. Like I'm like going through all the books. I'm like, none of this is like I feel none of this in my soul. Like I feel none of this connecting to me, you know? And usually sometimes I'll have those moments like, no way. I
was just thinking about
I was just thinking about this, but I hit this roadblock this morning, man. And I'm just like, and I'm praying. I'm like, God, like, can you guide me to a book? Like, I don't want to sit here and open your word. And I'm just like, I'm just not going to do this today because I don't know what to think. I don't know what
I just want to hear from you and I don't even know where to look.
I don't, yeah.
You know?
And it's harsh because it's like, I know I'm supposed to read that every day. That's like something that's in my routine already, you know, like I wake up, I read scripture, I get in there, cool. I read scripture, get done, I pray. And I'm like, all right, I feel awesome. I got the word in me today. I'm going to do a heel kick before I leave out the door. We're about to get it cracking today, right?
Yeah.
I got the Spirit of God in me. But man, today it was like one of those days. It's like, I actually don't know. Like, it was almost like I was going through social media of God here. I'm like, bro, I don't know which of your stories I want to go through right now. So I don't know, just like for somebody who's been in like that scene for really all their life, is like, have you ever really gone through that too?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think growing up, I was just so like, it was everything. It, you know, just surrounded by church, surrounded by all the teachings and stuff like that. I think I grew very jaded to it. And it didn't have a really deep impact on me. And I think I lost the beauty of it. I lost the, you know, the joy of scriptures, and it became something, you know, like it's one of those things, like it has pure intentions. Some of the things that we would do. So I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist faith, born and raised in that. And one of the things that we did on Saturdays, so I'll typically refer to things on Saturdays. I was very used to just Saturday services. But one of the things that we did on Saturdays was this thing called Adventures and Pathfinders. And so Adventures was something like, if you were like in elementary school, you'd be part of the Adventures. And this was like the glorified Boy Scouts. And then Pathfinders was like for the high school, and older age, kind of Boy Scouts. And so one of the things that they would do is like, remembering, Bible passages. And so it's one of those things, beautiful. You should know the word. You should, you know, be able to recite scripture. But it just became something that was just, all right, check. You know, how easy is it for us to just, you know, go to church on a Saturday or Sunday and just be like, check, I had my God time. Or have a devotional in the morning, check, I had my God time, and that's it. And so it became very easy just to, all right, I can just read off certain things, but I never really let that sink into my heart. So it really wasn't doing much for me, rather than just being able to say, all right, I got it. You know, I aced it. And so I think that's probably what that looked like for me. And then, you know, eventually getting to a point where it was like, yeah, I don't even know what to read, or, I've done this already. Like, is there anything more?
It's
Like, this is
give me a new-
boring.
Give me a new story, man.
Right. And it, quite honestly, it's just like,
Yeah.
is this it? Have I arrived? Like, now I look like everybody else at the church who's just kind of like,
Just going along.
we're doing it,
Yeah.
you know, and they're like 70 years old, and it just doesn't feel like a vibrant, living faith. It looks way more fun to be out in the world. It looks so much joyous, you know, full of life, not just me dying here and till I'm 80, just saying the same stuff over and over again. So yeah, I feel you. Well, if I could just encourage you, man, it is a daily journey. I definitely don't think I have arrived. If anybody says they have arrived, they are lying.
Lying. Oh yeah, 100%.
Because it's a daily choosing to pick up your cross. It's a daily choosing to step into what God has for you, you know, and it's easy to, you know, it's just interesting. You know, I am a new creation. The old is gone and the new is here. Sometimes the old wants to resurrect and come back to life. And that's a real thing. And I wish we can be very real about our struggles. That's something that, unfortunately, the culture doesn't do a good job of that.
No, absolutely not.
So, but it's a real thing, man. And so continue. I think it's the good fight. I think it's a good thing, knowing also in the same sense that God calls you a new creation. He doesn't look at you and say, sinner. You know, he says, no, you're my beloved. You're a saint. You know, I have bought you, you know, with my own blood. You are the righteousness of Christ now. And so living into that is what's most important. Even in those moments when you do fall back, it's okay.
I think me and Jeremiah, we had this conversation actually just about a Wednesday ago. We had this conversation after Bible study. We were talking about just really like sinning and stuff. It's like Jesus died for all that, you know? Yes, it's still good for us to repent. Yes, it's not a good thing that we do those things, that we may fall back into those things. But the biggest thing is the matter of what's in your heart. You know,
praise God that my identity is not found in my sinful nature.
Exactly.
Anymore.
It's not like God looks at me and be like, loser. Like, you know, like, as, you know, he's there and he understands. He knows that we're going to sin before we even do it. He knew it before we was even born.
Bro, the first podcast we did, it was, you know, it's not, Paul said that if I am sinning and I confess that the law is good and I sin, it's no longer me who's sinning. It is sin within me. Our identity is no longer in our sinful nature. Our identity is in the righteousness of Christ, bought on the cross with his blood. That's not who we are. That's not who God sees. That's who the enemy wants you to think you are, is that sinful creature. You're not that creature anymore. You are born again. You are a new creation. Don't believe the lie. Yes, you may have messed up, but God knew you were going to mess up even before he made you.
And that falls back into the half-truths. The devil loves giving half-truths.
It's like he'll say, you messed up. And you go, yeah, you're right. So you must be right.
Yeah.
It's like, but in the context, he's saying that you messed up, give up. You've messed up so many times. You're not worth it. There's no way God's going to forgive you. But he gets you in with that fact of you messed up. And you go, well, that's true. So then everything following it must be true too. And that's such a dangerous thing to fall into, bro.
Such
like,
a very dangerous thing.
It's, you know, people are capable of it, you know, in relationships. But I mean, spiritually, that's so degrading to you and your identity. And having that, and that's why it's so important to remember scripture and to study scripture and remember these things. It's that when these things come and tell you these lies, you go, no, that's not true. I know what my God told me. I know what my father told me. And my father loves me. He would never tell me that. Stay strong and stand firm on that. You know, that won't shake you. That'll keep you grounded for all your days.
And also something like when Bricks was talking about the whole, what was he talking about? Is that the flesh is condemning. The flesh is shameful. The flesh will literally lie to you and say that you're not worthy. You're a sinner. God doesn't love you. That's literally what the flesh wants you to believe. That's what the enemy wants. And that's something that I've really learned over time it was like every time I go through something, I may give into temptation or I may say some not so nice words to somebody. And I'm just like, man, I feel dumb. I'm like,
shouldn't have said that.
This is a silly word, you know? And not almost every time, but basically every time I either sin, I give into temptation, anything of that nature, I always feel like, man, okay, I shouldn't talk to God. God's disappointed in me. And, you know, it's like, man.
It's the shame.
It's the shame. And I've gotten really better at being like, not today, Satan. Like, you're not going to sit here and manipulate me into thinking like I'm this bad person and God doesn't love me anymore, because that's not true. You know, God would not forsake us. And that's something I've really learned over time. It's like, it's only been a year, but like how much I've learned just about God, his love. It's literally a father's love. And it's like, there's nothing you can replace with that. There's nothing you can fill that hole with his love. And that's why letting sin just control you and control what you think and how you feel about yourself is like the biggest thing. And that comes with also insecurities too. I think that also touches base with insecurities. Insecurities is just the work of the devil. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, God knows you very well, but so does the devil. He's been doing this a long time. This isn't new to him. There's not a trick in the book that like you think. Yeah, we're all beautifully, wonderfully made and uniquely made, but there's nothing that we're gonna go through that the devil hasn't seen before.
Right.
Like, he knows.
He's seen all.
He knows all the games. He knows how to lie to you. He knows how to manipulate. He's been doing this for thousands of years. He's not an amateur, bro. He's the best of the best.
But he can't win over the power of God.
No,
he cannot.
He's under his authority.
Yeah,
there's
nothing he could do. Nothing he do. Loser.
Bozo, get ratioed.
Yeah, get ratioed. Like, come on, bro, lock in. Dilly dallying so much.
Should have locked in.
You should have locked in. You know, and like also, I know like this is something that a lot of young men just go through, and I know you're older than me, and you're older than me. I'm like the baby here.
I'm still young.
He is young.
How old are you?
We don't need to talk about
Okay, we're not going to talk about it. It's disclosed.
He's in his 20s.
I'm 29. 29.
29? All right, yeah, you're still young. You're still young.
I wasn't going to say. I was like, he's in his 20s. He's 20s.
But a lot of young men, and including myself, the suffering from lust. Lust is a big thing. And also it's really promoted nowadays, you know, with like porn and stuff
Everything,
like that.
bro.
You know, everything. I mean, social media, you got girls and, you know, whatever, just half naked dancing on social media. And it's like, whoa, like, it's just like, social media is just such a...
Just trying to look at memes, bro. Come on.
Bro, I'm trying to over here laugh and giggle, and you over here doing some nasty stuff. I'm not trying to see this. So,
where's your father?
yeah, I'm telling on you. You know, yeah, like, as a young man, I was suffering for that for a very long time, catching on to porn addiction at a very young age. I mean, like 12, 13 years old is when I got introduced to that stuff. And thankfully, when I got saved, I began to cut that out of my life. And I can say now that it's not there. I'm not saying that the possibility of possibly falling back into that is not likely to happen, because it certainly is. It certainly is. We as people, as humans, we have that nature of curiosity. We talked about this in the first episode. We have curiosity. We're like, I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm like, I could. And
the possibility
of that is still there. So it happens. Yeah. We fall back into that nature. Yeah. And that's something just from my younger years, and even now, that I still suffer from at time to time. It's like, I shouldn't do this, but I do it anyway. And I'm just like, ow. I'm like, stupid, dumb. You know, but like, that's just something as a young man that I suffer from. And any young man that probably goes through that. And I'm sure there's young women out there that go through the same exact thing. It goes both ways. Yeah. You know, just a generation now as something huge.
Right.
Well, and bro, like, you go back 30 years and the internet didn't exist.
No.
You know, there wasn't porn websites and Instagram with people half naked on it. If you wanted that, you would have to get like a magazine.
You have to get a magazine, yeah.
Or you have to go to a club. And now we have all these...
Like, you have to go to a very sketchy store.
Yeah, to go
out of the way.
Yeah, you'd be like, you have to go out. You really want this that bad?
Yeah. Like, are you sure, brother?
There's a lot of...
It was a lot...
moments leading up to that where you could have turned around.
Yeah, but like nowadays, you got... It's all over the internet, like everywhere you look, and you got these kids with iPads that are like 4 years old, and
they literally have the world
of the internet,
the world at their hands. Literally,
nothing's stopping them.
Nothing is stopping them,
and that's so scary, bro. Like,
it's terrifying.
Like, and that just makes me think. I'm like, we're in the end times, bro. Like, it's so easy to not realize how close we are.
They're super close.
You know, it's when sexual immorality and so much stuff like this is so easily accessible and it's being promoted, bro, it's biblical. It makes me sad, but at the same time, he said it would happen.
Just look back at the book of Revelation, dude. It's all there.
He said it's going to happen.
It's all going to happen. And I'm just sitting there like, well.
That's why when you watch the news and like, oh, we're going to war, this and that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
What do you want me to
It's
do?
what the Bible said.
Me freaking out about it is going to do nothing.
Yeah, sit here and start flipping desks and start screaming and doing backflips like the
I'm
world's
like-
gonna end. The world's gonna end. I'm
It's like, yeah.
I'm like,
What are you going to do about it?
Right, I can't do nothing about it. I'd be like, hold on, fellas, don't worry,
Maybe we shouldn't do this.
don't fear. I'll stop this.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't have the power to do this.
No.
It's all up to God, and it's biblically, like you said, it's biblically logic. It's like how it's how it's going to be. It's been said in the Bible. Wars are going to happen. I mean, if you even look back, I mean, there was earthquakes in New York. When is there ever earthquakes in New York?
Yeah.
And you look back at the Bible, I forgot which book it is, but I remember it said there's going to be earthquakes, there's going to be wars, there's going to be like, wow, this is going on right now,
Yeah.
today.
You know, the Euphrates River dried up, and that's like one of the things that has to happen before Jesus comes back.
Really?
Yeah, Euphrates has to dry up, and I think it's almost there.
It's beginning, yeah. It's already, it's almost there.
It's either there or almost there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're getting really close,
Yeah.
dude.
For me, it makes me excited. It makes me
I get
excited,
really
and then it
excited,
also
bro.
like it's one of those things where, you know, some people like they see the news and it causes panic and chaos and how are you so calm about this? And it's like, well, I know this person, and he's my peace, and he actually talked about these things. And so it becomes, I feel like a witnessing point where you can talk to people about Jesus. You can talk to, that it isn't, the end, but this is just the beginning if you think about it. Then, you can go through these trials, you can go through these tribulations with this peace and knowing that there's somebody in control and it isn't going to, just all be terrible. But yeah, no, totally agree. I wanted to circle back to what you were saying before about kind of just the struggle with lust and pornography and just in this culture, because I'm not absent from that. I dealt with that at a very young age, kind of being introduced to that, and years of trying to, this battle, this struggle between the two, and some great victories and then some L's.
Yeah.
Some L's.
Some neck slappers.
Like, what are you doing? So I totally feel it. And so there's a lot of things, even scripturally that it's like, okay, God takes his people out of Israel. And I love that you guys are talking about Pharaoh. And so it was making me think about it. He takes them out of, he takes Israel out of Egypt. And that was just the easiest thing. That's not hard for God. Now, what's going to be the most challenging thing is getting Egypt out of them. And that's unpacking years of Egypt mentality, years of these different practices, years of these habits and creating new habits. And they're in a desert. So the location also is very important. There isn't easily accessible food and whatever, drink and all that stuff. And so it's a whole restructuring. It's a whole rewiring, but it takes time. And so that's something that I've had to learn in my life. It takes time. Sometimes God can do it in a moment, and other times it takes time. And there's beauty in that time that it takes. There's been things I've been learning about myself, and it's probably common throughout all, but in those moments where I feel very weak and the lust seems to be rising and the flesh seems to be taken over, I take a look at my time. Oh, it's late. I need to take myself to sleep. Just go to sleep. You're tired. We never do anything well when we're tired.
Not at all.
Nothing ever really works out well when we are operating from a tired place. And so in those moments, it's like, Marcus, you're just tired. Go to sleep. Man, I end up waking up like, I'm so glad.
Back cracking and everything.
I needed that. I needed that sleep. And in sometimes in those moments too, where it's like, it's hard. It's hard. It's a struggle. It's learning to turn to prayer, and it's a hard thing, but it becomes easier over time, right? It's this getting Egypt out of you. It's getting some of these habits out of you and starting to rewire. Okay, in those moments where there might be a trigger that I didn't even realize that's something I watched, something I may have seen on social, whatever it may be. set off a little trigger that late in the night, there's certain things coming back up. All right, let me turn to prayer. And 100% of the time, nothing ever happens. Like it's just praying to God. God, I feel this. And being very honest with your prayers. That's something I've learned too, is just being very honest. God, I feel like, you know what I'm feeling right now. And in this moment, I don't feel like you're enough. I don't feel like you're enough. I want to crawl back to what I knew. I want that instant gratification right now in this moment. And just being very honest with him. And then being also, but I know your word says you are enough. And I have seen that you have been enough in my life. And now I'm reminding myself. And now I've got this joy in my heart that I sleep so good at night in those moments. But turning to prayer, that's such a big part of it. Learning when to just say enough. I need to take myself to sleep. It's late. And knowing that it is a journey. If Israel took them that long, and not even that first generation that came out of Egypt made it to the promised land, there is hope for me. It is a process. It is a journey, leaning and trusting on him. But yeah. So anyways, those are just some tips or advice, things like that. Like
actually awesome.
Yeah,
I hear it.
Bro. And like, I love the story of Egypt and how it correlates. So it's almost like a mirror image of the struggle with porn and lust. It's like while the Israelites are in Egypt enslaved, hating life, begging to God, please set me free. We've been enslaved for 400 something years. Yeah. And God goes, I've heard your prayers. Let's leave. And they get out and they're so overjoyed. They cross that Red Sea and the first thing they do is praise God. They are so overly ecstatic about it and they're so ready to follow him wherever they go. And then they get to the desert and they go, it's hot. I'm tired. This is harder than I thought. Yes, we're free from this, but in a way it was easier to be a slave. We had food. We had 3 meals a day. We had water. We had meat. Now we just have bread. We don't know when our next meal is coming from. We don't know if we're going to have water. Right. Like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm not getting filled in the same way I was before. Yes, you're with me, but I'm exhausted. We should have just stayed in Egypt. We should turn back. It's not too late to turn back and go back. Yep. We had all these things. It's like, yeah, but you were a slave. You were miserable. Do you not remember your misery? Yeah. And in the moments, you don't. And you talk yourself into, I'm just going to go back to Egypt. Yep. It was easier. Yep. You're right. It was easier.
Go back to the Egypt mentality. Mm-hmm. We're gonna build this golden calf. Mm-hmm. We got to worship something. Mm-hmm. So let's do that. A lot of things that God's like, I'm trying to take that out of you. Let me show you that I am enough. Like what I did back then, I can do it again. I mean, he's raining bread from heaven. He's raining bread from heaven. Like, that's wild.
That's insane.
And then they're like, well, make meat come.
Yeah. And they're like, we want more.
Can I get all of the good stuff now?
And so, there's just a lot. There's just a lot there. I mean, it's a powerful story that never grows old. Mm-hmm. And how often we can find ourselves just like the Israelites in that same boat. You've seen God do things, amazing things in your life, but now you're in this place and you're doubting. And it's okay to doubt, but it's also like, how are you? I just want to go back to that. Yeah. Like it just feels more comfortable there. You're hitting on all that. Some of those moments where we feel very uncomfortable. He wants us to be in this tension. He brought them to the desert. Like not enough people realize that.
The desert.
What's going on in the desert?
There's nothing there.
Nothing. But it's him that's there. So a lot of people are afraid of going to the desert. A lot of people are afraid of those periods of time where it seems like there's nothing. But in that space, there is everything. Everything. And so, I've had a lot of those periods of times in my life where I've really encountered God in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of times where I've just struggling from all that lust and really all that. I mean, you find times where you feel like God is absent, He's not listening to you. You're just like, yo, like, boss man, I need you to like come here, bro.
I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, I'm not even talking to nobody, you know, but I've told myself, I was like, there's a reason why he's absent. It's definitely a test, 100% test of faith. You know what I mean? But two, it's like, maybe there's something he needs me to grow from before he can step foot and make himself known and answer my prayers. And that was something that like just hit me. I'm just like, dang, that's a good one. That's a good one, you know, but it's so real though. You know, like if he's absent, there's a reason for it. It's not because, oh, well, he's just tired of hearing you yap about, you know, Sean Quisha or whatever, or you yapping about something that's not important. But it's just more of, he wants to see if you're really faithful as much as you may be expressing to other people, or you may be praising in song when things are all great and colorful, you know. But like, he wants to see how you are when times are rough, when he's not there, he's just sitting there and watching back like, okay, let me see if you will come to me in this time of need, you know, no matter how long it is. I went through that for 6 months. 6 months of this year, I was going through like, yo, God, where are you at, dude? Like, I need you here. I don't know where you are. Like, I'm praying about this thing. I need this. Like, right now, I need this. And just absent. It's like, bro, I'm about to expel you from school, man. Like, where are you, dude? You know? But I've learned a lot that there was a lot of growing that I need to do in that time period. Yes, it's great to focus on him. And I still praised. I still read my Bible. I still kept up the part of my routine for him. That didn't change anything. But I was focusing on him, but I was also focusing, okay, there's something I need to work on. There's something I need to grow in. There's some growing up I need to do in myself, because there's obviously a reason for this happening. Yeah. And I'm sure that happens to everybody. And that's just kind of just my insight on it. You know, it's like if he's absent, there's a reason behind it. He's not just absent just to be absent. There's a purpose.
Absolutely.
There's a purpose behind it.
Absolutely. It's a story of Abraham, man. You know, in his old age, God comes and he's like, you're going to have a kid. And they both laugh. Talk about funny. That's a very funny story.
Yeah.
It's a very funny story. So I'm not going to ruin it. You have to read it, but
I might have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Yeah. And I think it was something like 30 years that they waited. And it's this time period where God said something, and they're like, oh, you know, but when? They waited 30 years, and it's this process of waiting and learning to be patient, waiting on the Lord, and what that produces. The psalmist talks about that. Those who wait upon the Lord, you know. And so there's all these beautiful things that you learn along the way, but then there's also sometimes decisions that you make that are wrong. You know, Abraham tried he said I was going to have a kid, but maybe we have to go about it this way. Okay, that wasn't right. Maybe we just wait. And so, yes, there's this moment that comes. All right, so then they have a kid, and there's just this amazing, like this is the promised son. 30 years later. That's not an easy wait, y'all. 30 years is a long time. But you live knowing that God said something. Will that word that he says carry you all the way 30 years? And I think that's something beautiful. Like, will you hang on to every word that he says and know that it's his timing? And so there's that, you know, so many things that can be taken away from there. But then now God is like, would you give me your son? And, you know, he tells him where to go. Go to the mountain and sacrifice him to me. And that was it.
That was it.
And so there's this whole long journey as he's bringing his son through. All right. He's all right. I'm waiting. But at any moment, God, I know you're not like the rest of them. Just, you know, I don't know what you're trying to teach me, but just we don't have to do this. All the way to that moment. He's climbing up the mountain. He's binding up his son, everything like that. And now he realizes and knows without a doubt that God always comes at the perfect time. he will provide the sacrifice always. Something that he has to learn, Abraham has to learn. And that's something that we learn today. God will always come in at the right time. It's not our time, it's his time. There's something, God will provide the sacrifice. God did provide the sacrifice, through his son. And so there's all these things that's being taught, but man, it is a journey. It's this waiting. It's all these uncomfortable times.
I know you love talking about the difference between religion and the relationship. If you wanted to touch on that at all. I know that's like your bread and butter, bro.
Is it? I don't know.
I think so.
That could be our closing topic.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely. I mean, I'm gonna speak from a deep relationship part. I'm gonna speak from a deep experience part. And yeah, I grew up in the church. I was doing the church thing, but there was a deep encounter that I had with him, a deep experience that I cannot shake. And that was the relationship. That's when everything became very real to me. And I saw in color. I just began to see things for what they were. And I just saw this beautiful image of God. And so I don't know if there's time I can talk a little bit about, that encounter, that relationship or whatever, but
We got plenty of time, bro. It's 3:16.
was that kind of where you're thinking? I don't know.
I mean, like,
Let's do it, dude.
sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We're here to talk, right?
Yeah. I think, prior kind of coming up, like I said, in the church, doing all those things. And a big part of my story happens when I was 16. And it is pretty crazy that my big moment with God and my whole life changing was at 16. And my mom's whole life changing happened at 16. And her giving birth to me and her whole, just everything. And so, for one, it's not coincidence. God is very intentional with things like that.
Very intentional, yes.
But yeah, 16, I was a junior in high school, and I'm going through my just through the motions of being a 16-year-old. I was probably, listening to Nirvana at that time, all sorts of stuff, but
All that teenage angst.
all that teenage angst. But I ended up going to the doctor's office, and they ended up diagnosing me with testicular cancer. And that was a pretty hard, crazy journey to kind of, one, deal with that, especially as a 16-year-old kid, like what in the world, and certainly, now living on this side of, things like, being completely cancer free, like it's never coming back. And so that's a huge testimony of who God is. But in the span of 2 to 3 months after that, I ended up losing both of my grandparents, and they were, very, very dear to me. Super hard kind of going through that. And I remember praying this prayer. It was like, God, I want to be back on that hospital bed. I felt so far away from you. I felt, I just want to be close to you again. And I'm just going through high school, and at this point, I had already started leading worship, and there was my first ever opportunity to travel outside of state was going to happen that summer, and was really excited for it. And so I just had to go through my finals, and then I'm on a plane, and now I'm like on another state, like singing. Like, this is crazy. This is wild that this is happening. And so I'm in my last final, my junior year, and I end up falling over, can't breathe, get rushed to the hospital. They say, Marcus, you have something called a pneumothorax, and your lung has collapsed, and we're going to bring you into surgery. We're going to put a tube in your side. And for those who don't know what that is, I guess I did explain it. Your lung collapses, but your lung is like a balloon. And so you can put like a tube in and like fill your lung back up. It's pretty fascinating. And so they're like, we're going to fill it back up, and we're going to see how your lungs hold up by the morning. And it took a total of 3 times. And each time my lung would collapse by the morning, again and again. And little by little, just like hope, kind of just like fleeting. And by the 3rd time, the doctors told me, like, hey, Marcus, this is going to be hard, but you're going to have to call off the travels. You're going to have to, you won't be able to. And not only that is you're not going to be able to sing again because your lungs are just too weak. And so I remember sitting with that and just being pretty defeated, questioning a lot, and then also angry. And the question, why? Why, God? Why did you do this? I thought that this is what you wanted. I thought that this is what was for me. And I was wrestling a lot on that hospital bed. And I was just angry. And my parents would try to encourage me, different family, friends, same thing, try to encourage me, but I wanted nothing to do with him. And in one of those days that I was there, a nurse came into my room, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, Marcus, I know it's been tough. I can't say that I know everything that you're going through, but hopefully this puts things in perspective. But if you would have gone onto that plane and reached 10,000 feet of elevation, you would have passed away. And in that moment, I was left speechless. Like, wow. God, you have a plan for me. God, you foreknew this. And it turned from, just me being very angry with God to just praise. You still have plans for me. And in this moment, I'm hearing and I'm feeling, it's not just hearing, I'm feeling his touch for the first time in my life like this. And it's a touch that will forever change me. And so he met me with a touch there on that hospital bed, and feeling him close by, like, I'm here. I never left you. But then also hearing his voice, Marcus, the doctors saw a lung issue, but it's a heart. I'm trying to reach your heart. I have not forgotten the gifts that I've given you. And I'm going to be the one who gives you that breath again. I'm going to be the one who holds up your lungs. Will you give that back to me? Will you make this about me? And ever since then, man, my lungs have been held up because the doctors say I'm not supposed to. And I know that it is his breath, and I always go back to the song. It's his breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. That song will always choke me up because I know what it's like to not have breath in my lungs, and I know whose breath it is that is filling my lungs. And that was a deep moment for me where it became relationship. Prior to that point, it was a very religious do's, don'ts, and them, us versus them, and very kind of like divisive, judgmental, whatever you want to call it. But it was never a lived-in experience of having a relationship with God. And so I always point back to that. Changed forever from that moment. And never taking opportunities, especially like this, for granted. Any breath that I have in my lungs, man, I'm going to point it to him. And so, yeah, I don't know if that kind of hits on it, but just it's hard to, and I talk about this sometimes when we've done worship together, but it's hard to lead from a place, or it's hard to lead people into a place you've never been. And what I mean by that is, if I haven't had a deep encounter with God, if I hadn't had this very vulnerable moment with him, it's hard for me to recreate that moment or try to bring you into that space. At most, it's going to feel very fabricated and inauthentic. And so I'm very much about that. Like, are we stewarding that time with God before we try to go into the public space? Are we doing life with God in the private before we try to bring other people into it in the public? And so for me, those moments there on that hospital bed, that whole year of 2012, everything that happened within 6 months was so formative to my life. It was the deep place of encounter that I always point back to, I always used to see it as my midnight, my darkest moment. But now I look back at it and it was like, that was my morning. That was my morning moment. That's when light broke through the darkness that I was living in. And now I'm into a new day. And I, so there's just been so much that I've been learning from that season and just still unpacking, but relationship.
Dude, that was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you got to that point where you were talking about, man, if you would have passed away on that plane, if you would have got on there, I was just like, man, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Dude, that's like, it's really impactful because it's like you don't really realize what God can really save you from. Like, yeah, it could be bad in the moment. You're just like, man, this sucks, But it's like God literally saved your life, and that's huge because if you were to step on that plane, if you were to get to 10,000 feet, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like nobody would be here right now today talking to you. You wouldn't be right now as a worship leader doing all these things, going to Portland. I mean, that's awesome. You're doing huge things, and that's inspiration, dude. It's like, man, and to now know like your story and that behind it, it's like, man, what you're doing is so all God. That is amazing because you
can't be anything but that.
You can't. There's nothing else. What else is that? It's straight miracle. Straight miracle. And if nobody believes in miracles, I hope you do now because I definitely do. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely do. And that's huge. And that's something I really appreciate. That was. Wow, I don't even have a story like that. I can't even compete.
And it's not even to try to compare stories, truthfully. I mean, because what God's doing through your life is absolutely beautiful. What God's doing through your life is absolutely beautiful.
It's all great.
And I think that's been the biggest takeaway that I try to tell people is like, God is writing a beautiful story in your life. My life looked this way. Doesn't make it any more special, any more, we all have beautiful stories. And the most amazing thing about it is that he's not done.
No.
He's not done. That there is more to your story. There's more to your story. There's more to my story.
All of our
My
stories.
story isn't over. And so that's the beautiful thing that I try to encourage people about. Don't compare.
Yeah.
Don't. But just trust this story that God is writing. The author is good. And so that's a big takeaway for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, anything else you want to open up about? Anything you want to talk about?
I don't know. I can't follow up with that. It's such a good story.
It is a really good story. But yeah, no, again, I appreciate you coming on. That was like huge. I was getting kind of scared for a second because I'm like, all right, I haven't heard from this guy. I'm like, Tuesday's coming up, man. I'm like, please, I don't know what to do this week. I'm like,
Oh, man.
no, I'm
Right on time.
right on time. Right on time. Literally perfect timing. Because I mean,
just wait.
yeah, because I didn't hear anything back from you like Sunday, and I was like, okay, what happened?
Yes.
I was like, are you okay? You still good over there? And then he texted me Monday. I'm just like, because I was having a pretty rough day actually. I didn't feel good, and I wasn't doing the greatest things that morning. And then you texted me, and I just like, I now be locked in. All right, cool. My entire day changed. So like you texting me it may not have seemed like it really did much, but not as so much as this aspect of for the podcast, but because it's like that made me feel good because that was something I was really excited for, and now we're here. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. This is huge, and
Of course.
come on as many times as you want, man. This isn't a one-time thing, man.
Yeah.
Like this is forever, bro. As long as I can try my best to keep it alive, I will do it. And again, like I said, this is something I want to expand to other people. Even people who haven't yet made that step to follow Christ, to accept Him in their life, and this is that beginning that I want to form because I was once that person. I was living a life separate from God, So this is the outlet that I want for other people to use. And here it is. Here it is. We're delivering, and
God's gonna use it, man.
God's gonna use it.
Yeah, man.
God's gonna use it, and I just think everybody you guys, I think even for the future, like whatever's to come, like I'm just excited for it. But
Can't wait to see what God does, man.
can't wait to see it.
Me too. Me too. So it's a great privilege to be here and talking with you guys. Can't wait to do part 2, whatever.
Yes, bro.
Part 2.
And we can talk into some of the deeper things. But yeah.
See, he said it was happening, so.
Yes.
So-
yes.
Oh, this is already caught on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You can't say.
yes.
You can't say.
You guys got receipts.
Yeah, let
Can't-
your yes be yes and your no be no.
Can't say. Where's the proof? You got proof? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
prove it.
Yeah,
I got it. It's on YouTube right now. But yeah, I thank everybody for watching. I thank you guys for being here. And that's it. Peace out, guys.